Alrighty, looks like we've got alchemy and plunder today. Only landscape is reckless. Gotta go back to the main view to see what pile that's on. It's on secluded shrine. So this will be doubled and then the card returns to its pile. Okay. I think that makes it effectively like it's a lot like opening with a one-shot count, I think. The 5 cost card. You play a secluded shrine, you buy a copper, you trash your hand, and you get 1 copper back. It's very similar to the effect that count has. I can see that being a good opening. Actually, it's also quite like Cage. Cage is another card where you clear out your whole hand. Uh, I think Secluded Shrine looks better here. It just permanently trashes them, whereas Cage, you eventually get all the junk back whenever you start scoring. Anyways, rest of the kingdom. Draw, there's Crew and Siren, also Stowaway. For villages, only University. Hmm. Trashing, Secluded Shrine, where temporarily Cage can set things aside. And for plus buy, there's Sack of Loot and Buried Treasure, plus both Search and Loot. Or Search and Sack of Loot give you access to the loot pile, most of which have plus buy on them. Hmm. Oh, it's worth checking. With Siren, you always want to be on the lookout for ways to get it into your deck without paying the trashing cost. So the example that always shows up in Plunder Kingdoms is if you had an Insignia in play, you could gain a Siren, top deck the Siren, and then the top decking effect and the trashing effect happen at the same time, so you could choose the order, and if you choose the top deck first, the trashing fails. Unfortunately, there's no way to guarantee you have an Insignia early on. Is there anything else that would do the same thing here? I don't think so. Okay, so where's this headed? If you're building an engine, presumably it's got to involve playing a bunch of universities, and then you could play Crew, and you could play with Stowaway as well, maybe Pair of Sirens. Sounds all right. Not amazing. What about just Crew? Is there any synergy here? I think possibly. The thing to look out for with Crew is there a way to reliably draw one extra card at the start of your turns? If for like the main synergy that I think shows up in Plunder Kingdoms is with Rope. You just put a bunch of ropes in your deck and 1 copy of Crew, and that copy of Crew top decks itself at the start of each turn. And then rather than having the card every other turn, if you have a rope in play, the rope draws you 1 card at the start of your turn. You draw your Crew, you play it, you set it up again. And then often that's a pretty decently fast big money strategy. Just have 1 Crew and a bunch of treasures. Here, I think you could do something like that with Stowaway, perhaps. So if you get 1 Stowaway in play every turn, it'll draw you 2 cards, and you can choose the order of which of these things happens first. So you top deck your Crew first, then you draw into it with Stowaway. You'll draw a bunch of Stowaways dead, but then you can play them via the reaction effect if you gain a duration card, and there's plenty of durations you could reasonably gain. Probably the simplest would be more Stowaways or just a buried treasure. So I'm thinking maybe like Crew, Stowaways, Buried Treasure, maybe 1 copy of Sack of Loot in that deck looks good. That sounds pretty strong. And this other stuff feels kind of slow, like University to gain a bunch of actions or Familiar for cursing. The one thing I'm wondering about is trashing, because that deck is playing Crew every turn, which make it hard to fit a secluded shrine in unless you got lucky and got like Spell Scroll or Staff. And maybe the cursing could hurt that deck. You could add cages to that deck and be okay. I think I'm gonna go for Crew and Stowaway. I'm not sure if that's better than trying to build full engine with University. This just seems kind of slow if all it's doing is being an Acropolis to help you play your crews. Like you buy a potion, that's 1 stop card. You buy a University, that's 2 stop cards. Crew is plus 2 cards, but after all that, you're only breaking even. You're not really net drawing cards until you've got like multiple universities and multiple crews. That just kind of it seems slow because it's not a bigger payoff. So I think I'm going to open with a secluded shrine and get 1 trash off. And what am I pairing with that? Hmm. Is there a pile that's going to empty here that makes search relevant? Not obviously. I could see stowaways running out. I could see curses running out depending on what the bot does. Maybe buried treasures as well. Search could activate here. Hmm. Is double secluded shrine too much thinning? I think where I want to get is I think I want a copy of Sack of Loot. That doesn't seem absolutely mandatory, but there's some loots here that would pay off pretty well. Goat, staff, spell scroll. Probably those are the main ones. Figurehead wouldn't be bad. But I could see just sufficing with only buried treasures. But I want to have one copy of Crew, some number of stowaways, and then probably one sack of loot. I think I could get by with maybe just one secluded shrine for thinning, and then have a decent bit of coppers in the deck. Two secluded shrine, like I think one secluded shrine is effectively going to trash three cards because you're probably like buying a copper to activate it, and then you trash four cards from your hand. Or maybe you could play secluded shrine one turn, play two coppers, buy a cage the next turn, then you trash three from your secluded shrine, the cage sets aside four more. Maybe that's the way this goes. I think I'm going to say secluded shrine plus a stowaway. Final answer. Not final answer. I'm reconsidering already. What if I just want a silver to get up to 5 and 6 quickly? Maybe that's more important than the stowaway. All right, new plan. Silver. Okay, so I could buy a. Oh, this is better than I thought. I totally forgot that the +1 coin was going to be doubled as well. I thought I'd have to buy a copper here, so I could actually buy a cage and trash four. Okay, that just sounds even better than I had anticipated. I could alternatively hold off and buy the cage next turn and potentially trash two estates. Or on the flip side, I'm also potentially hitting five next turn with the silver. So I think I'd rather just trash the one estate for sure. As it turns out, it looks like it might have been better to buy the cage on this turn. These estates are obviously the worst card. I think I'm gonna take one more copy of. I've also got a cage. I think I'm just gonna start in on the stowaways. I don't think I want to trigger this, or do I? I've already hit five, so I can play the stowaway now, and then have the +2 cards next turn and buy a crew or buried treasure. Or I could activate. I think I'm gonna activate it and take a sack of loot first. Never mind. Hit five anyway. Uh, I think I'll go ahead and put the crew in the deck. Hmm. Perhaps my deck is a little bit too thin for the crew, and that probably should have been a buried treasure with the power of hindsight. Like that crew is just not going to do anything. I think I actually don't set aside the coppers. In those bottom five cards, I trashed three coppers and one estate. I'm looking at two coppers, so there's two more coppers down there, a stowaway, a crew, and a silver. So yeah, if I set aside two and leave these two, I will hit six exactly, and then I can take a sack of loot and get going that way. I won't get the stowaway to play, which is not a big deal. Hmm. I could buy a search here. I'll draw it dead off of the crew, but then the following turn, I won't have the crew in my hand, and I can play this search that turn, I think. I think this makes sense. If I'm counting correctly, I don't need to activate that. Well, shoot. This was going to be the turn that I played the search because it was going to be the one turn I didn't have my crew. And my poor search is hiding. And the bot wasn't kind enough to activate stowaway this time. Okay, I'll just take one more stowaway. This might just not be getting played. Orb. Not sure if that does anything good here. I'll go ahead and take a buried treasure. Actually, is there a way I could reasonably play Siren here? I could certainly trash the search for Siren. I don't care about the search very much. Didn't show up the one turn, needed it. The trouble is, I gain the Siren. If I'm playing crew every turn, I never get to play the Siren. I don't know that that's worth it. I think I'm just going to stick with the original plan. And I'll take a cage, try to get a few more coppers aside. So crew first, then stowaway. Draw everything. Set these aside. Should I give up on the search? Possibly so. I don't think it's getting played. That Jules would have activated my Stowaway if it were in hand, but it is unfortunately the bottom card of my deck. Okay. I think just more buried, maybe two more Stowaways, three more Stowaways. I want to find at least one Stowaway every turn. That's what's important, so I can draw the crew consistently. But I know I've got one next turn. I think I'm just going to take two more buried treasures. Okay. Let's take a Stowaway, activate that, and the second sack of Loot Excessive, possibly. Find more buried treasure. Insignia. That would be a way to get free sirens, although I don't know that I have much to do with them. The fact that I've got... Why can't I scroll? There we go. 6 cards set aside on cages is some reason to potentially hold off on scoring a little bit longer, because I benefit from a clean deck, and the moment I pick the first province, it kind of falls apart a bit. But on the flip side, I think I'm definitely in the position of wanting to score sooner, because the bot is eventually going to give me 10 curses and eventually get the universities working. I'm thinking perhaps I could top deck a search using the insignia, resolve the stowaway before the crew so that I don't draw the crew this turn, play the search, and then get a big curse trash off next turn. So I said search. I meant secluded shrine, not search. That probably didn't make any sense. But top deck this, and then I'll draw it and not draw the crew. I'll play that, and either this turn or the following turn, I'll trash a bunch of stuff. I think that'll pan out. Let's take some more stowaways. Top deck one of them, see if the bot activates it. It does not. So stowaway first, and then the crew, and now they're not button heads with each other. And I need to activate these, so I'll take a buried treasure. Oh, maybe I won't take a buried treasure. I have to not gain any treasures this turn, because I want to activate the secluded shrine next turn. If I gain a treasure here, it's going to trigger the stowaway prematurely. So if you gain a duration card that is not a treasure, probably just means one more stowaway then. Play all those, decline. Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and take a province. Pop those. And two more stowaways. See how that goes. This darn search is just never getting activated. Okay, trash one. I think the search just dies. And then trash the estates, I presume. It's late enough in the game that it's not obvious anymore that estate's worse than copper. We're already kind of in the scoring phase, but I still think that's correct. Okay, so I've got to gain a duration card to activate my stowaways. Could be something cheap, plus 2 provinces. I don't mind lowering the search pile. I think that bringing the game to a close quicker helps me more than the bot. Alternatively, it could be like 1 province and 2 buried treasures. I think I like the sound of that more. Means next turn will be better. Top deck, draw a bunch of cards. Set aside a curse. And do I have a win? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll do it. And then a state. Okay, yeah, I think if the curses had kept coming in, that could eventually be a problem. Although I think sorry, there is someone mowing very loudly. I hope that's not too audible. Anyways, I think actually the alternating crew and secluded shrine plan probably would have worked pretty well if I needed to deal with more curses. Just intentionally let the crew stay top decked, then play the secluded shrine on the opposite turn, and then you can clear up 4 cards next turn. So I don't think the curses are actually that much of a threat, and I think the potion plan just seems too slow to me. Like this was a 10 turn game, right? No, 10 points, 15 turn game. Okay, never mind. It wasn't that fast, but still, we're doing all this. I think it's a bit slow. I think the more streamlined deck seems to be faster here.